is
You won't ever have to
who is such an amazing talent, and we getting ready to get started. I got an amazing conversation planned tonight. We're gonna do some great conversation and have some great dialogue about money on tonight. And I want you to come on in the room. And as you come in the room, get in the comment section, let me know you're here. Let me welcome you wherever you are. You're here on my personal page, on the church's page, or on YouTube. We welcome you. Miss May Lee, I see you. Good evening to you. Good to have you in the house on tonight. You all make sure that you share this one today, because we're going to cover some great information on tonight that I think is going to be impactful for folk you are connected to. So come on in. Let's see who we got. I want to make sure that I am live on all the platforms I need to be live on. Come on in, and as you come in, again, make sure that you're sharing this. Let somebody know that we are indeed live. Amen. Yep. And as you come in, please be paying attention as we go through Black History Month. We are going to celebrate Black excellence all month and celebrate characters that have gone before us, but people who are still living among us that we are grateful for. So come on in. Let's get ready to engage in dialogue and join in together. Y'all get in the comment section. Let me know that you are here. I want to get the algorithm enough time to let y'all know we in the house. Minister Tammy Lynch is on. What's up? Good to see you, Tammy.
Tammy.
Miss Marlene, good evening to you. Good to see you on this evening. This is going to be great, and I'm excited about it. Again, those are the sounds of Jonathan Baker. Folk always ask me, what songs are you playing? That was Jonathan Baker right here. Wifey is on. What's up, Siobhan? Good to see you on this evening.
Hey,
so you all continue to come in the room. My brother Greg, what's up, man? Greg said, on my way to YouTube. I know that's right, man. We got to get those YouTube numbers up. Miss Tammy Slater, good to see you on today. So I want to talk today about being smart with your stimulus. And of course, this is not just talking about stimulus. This is really going to pertain to money, period, because we want you to develop habits. And we don't want you just to be spenders or consumers, but we want you to be producers, creators, savers, and investors. We want you to see a return on that which God has placed in your life. So as you come in the room, understand this is going to be a very powerful conversation on tonight. I am so excited about who we have to share with us. And let me just give you just a little bit of information about our special guest. I want to introduce to you and present to some of you Miss Tashana Pullium, Tashana Nicole. Tashana understands the challenges of raising well-rounded children while building and maintaining a dynamic career. Her pursuit of being an active member in the community, as well as a young mompreneur, led her to further her education and create multiple platforms that focus on empowering, inspiring, and educating others to achieve their dreams. In her role as a MSW professional, she has gained substantial experience and education in serving at-risk populations with a passion for working with youth. That is amazing. I hear you, Tammy. Tammy, like, yes. I'm going to lay it on. I got more to say. She has now begun her journey in personal finance education and aims to empower others with the principles learned through her blog. I need you to remember this. Through her blog, Hopeful Reality, she provides templates, strategies, inspiration on becoming financially literate and independent. Tashana believes change begins with one choice at a time. I love that, and would love to share her story and talents to ignite the fire of inspiration to help others achieve their dreams. Tashana is a financial enthusiast, and I'm so excited to have her in the house. I'm going to bring her on screen right now. I need y'all to throw some hearts up. Put your hands together for Miss Tashana Pullium. Tashana, how you doing today?
Hey family, I'm doing well. I'm sorry, I was talking before you brought me up saying
No, no,
hi
no.
to
You were fine. You were fine. You were
okay.
fine.
Hi everybody. I'm excited to be here this evening.
Amen. Amen. We are so excited to have you. And to Shauna, there's just so much in your story. I know that we have had some conversations about it. And of course, we will probably cover some of that, but we're also going to cover some great insights that I believe that you have to share with us on today. Look, church, I need you to understand that when we talk about our faith in God, our faith is one that is integrated. So that we don't have our belief in God over here and our finances over there. But God has something to say about every level of our lives, from how we spend our money to how we raise our children to our romantic relationships. God has something to say about it all, and God empowers us to live in fulfilled excellence in every area of our life. And so I don't want you to think, this is not Bible study tonight because we're talking about finances. No, 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 no. No, this is part of your spiritual growth and part of your spiritual development. As a matter of fact, we can gauge some of our spiritual maturity by how well we handle our wallets. And so some of us would do well to have this conversation as well as pass this on to the people in our lives. So as we begin to open up, why don't I just start to Shauna? Do you have any opening thoughts, anything that you want to share with us before we dive deep into this conversation?
Yes, I'm so glad that you kind of set the stage of just making it aware that there's no separation with our relationship when it comes to money and our walk with God. And I really feel like as we talked before in regards to some money traumas, I feel like there's an association sometimes that people need to work through, equating money to something as far as having a lot of it as like a bad thing, or
Mm.
I really want people to challenge and really examine those thoughts if there is a separation with your relationship with money, and having it as being tainted, or not something you should really focus on because you're a believer. So I'm really glad that you kind of definitely set the stage that no, this is important in our walk with God. There are resources that He wants to give us to be a blessing to other people, and if we don't really know how to steward it, you know it could not be great. So yeah.
Good stuff. Why don't we kind of start there, because I think you covered just some great stuff. Um, I'm going to ask you two questions. First, I want you to give me some misconceptions we have about money. And then I want to dive into this conversation because Siobhan is already on it. I want to dive into this conversation around money trauma. But first, give me some misconceptions that people have around money.
Mhm. So I'll start with my own. I
Hmm.
know one of the things that I really had to work through is thinking that rich people or wealthy people who tend to have a lot of money is involved in some type of evil. They must have did something wrong to kind of have all of that money, or
Mm,
thinking that money is the root to all evil, when it's actually the love and the intention behind you acquiring that money is what makes it evil. Money itself, it's not, it can't do anything. It does what you tell it to do, so I that was something I really had to work with, and not feel shameful or bad because I want a lot of money. I want to be wealthy. I want to have a lot, and that's because I have big dreams. I have big visions. I want to give a lot. And so I'm really working through and understanding that that desire to have more money is not an evil thing. It's not a bad thing, because what we do even now, we need internet to be able to give this message, and internet
right.
costs money. We need
Hmm.
resources. We need cameras to be able to send this message, and that costs money. And so really looking at money as a way of resource and not something that is evil or wrong to want more of. Is something that, I feel that I personally had to work through, but I know can possibly be like a common battle or misconception, for us believers.
Yeah, that is so good, because I think sometimes when we talk about poverty, poverty is a mindset at times, and we get stuck for various reasons. Some is spiritual, so we hear we pick up some bad habits, pick up the residue of what some folk have taught us about money, whether it's from a spiritual perspective. Sometimes it's bad habits that we pick up from people who we grew up around. So many of us grew up around people who didn't have money, so they didn't know how to handle what they had, and so we picked up all of these behaviors, and we picked up all of these habits, and those habits influence our character and our understanding around money, whether we know it or not. Many of the things that we do to this day, when we get some money, we don't think about saving or investing. First thing we think about is spending, right? So we go and get some Jordans,
Right.
or we going to get whatever. And what I'm hearing from you is that there's some deeper reasons why we do that. So I think that's a good segue. Let's cover some money trauma. When you talk about trauma in money, what do you mean?
Mhm. So, first, the word trauma means to have an experience that is of distress. And so sometimes people may hear the word trauma and think like very extreme situations, but if there's anything that causes you type of distress or stressful, it's just a little bit more than a stressful situation. That's something you cannot manage emotionally, is trauma. So with money, there are experiences that we may encounter that has traumas to it, and poverty is a big one. I myself, have come in from poverty, even with my education. There was a time where I had to depend on welfare and different, public benefits to be able to maintain my needs. And once I transitioned out of that, I realized that there were certain habits that kind of carried along with how I viewed my money, how I managed my money, because, I'm just going to be transparent. When you have food stamps, you are not, you swiping away, what's on there. You don't really have
Hmm.
to, manage what's going in, what's going out. Every month I'm getting this much. I just throw it in the cart wherever I want to throw in the cart. And once that transition where I solely have to use my money to pay for my food now, I'm paying a little bit more closer attention to those prices. So there's certain habits and things that, we have to transition out of when you're coming from a place of poverty, which I do believe has some very, traumatic impacts on it, in regards to, um, being solely responsible for you, and you don't have that backup, if you don't have that support of a system that's going to consistently show up regardless of your situation, as long as you meet, them income barriers. Versus now I'm depending on myself. There's a fear there, there's a transition there. Like, what if I lose my job, or what if my income goes down? Like, I don't want to lose that safety net. And so, what I realized, like, once I transitioned out of there, that I had to pay a lot more close attention to my finances, because it wasn't just the amount that was coming in, it was me truly maximizing what I had. So kind of, going through that and learning the basics of budgeting, and learning, the basics of, knowing what's coming in and knowing what's coming out, and not being afraid of, losing, my job, but starting to build that safety net, and just building skills that I never really thought I needed to have, or never really paid attention to have, until after I kind of shifted out of that environment of no longer having, that assistance that was kind of, I don't want to say guaranteed, but was really a safety net for me.
Yeah, that is so good. I think whenever we talk about mental health, emotional health, and trauma, the conversation around triggers, things that trigger us. So what triggers spending? What are those things, in our mind that signal to us, to buy this or buy that. And many times it's not based around what we need, but sometimes it is connected to something deeper that you were just talking about. And I do I want you to cover this, because we need to really speak to that stigma that everybody who was on government assistance is taking from the government and doesn't want to do any better. There are a lot of people that they want to do better, and they even have an opportunity for promotion, but the problem is that extra $2, $3 that they might make on that job doesn't measure up to what they were getting in food stamps or what have you. And
Yeah.
so they really aren't making any more. And then there is no certainty around, whether this job is going to be here for the next 3, 4 years. And there's always been stability with government assistance, and you kind of spoke to that today, but you also spoke to it when we talked before about, when we talk about poverty, and you as a social worker, you understand that people have base needs, that if those base needs aren't met emotionally, they're not going to be healthy, and they can't really make the decisions really sober. So talk about that and really help people to understand that.
Yes. So one of the things that I learned in social work when we're dealing with, populations, especially at-risk populations, is that there's like this psychology called the Maslow hierarchy of needs. And basically, with this theory, is that there are certain pillars that need to be reached before we can reach the top, called, self-actualization. This is where a person is whole, they're stable. But at the very bottom is your basic needs. So that's food, clothing, and shelter. So what's very, detrimental about poverty in the welfare system is that, based off of this theory, like, after that, I believe it's like, safety, self-esteem. There's another one in between, I can't think of it. And then like self-actualization. Even though all of those things, kind of build off of one another, it does not mean that they're not happening interchangeably. So even though, someone is still at the basic need, doesn't mean that their self-esteem and their safety is not an issue. But the problem with poverty is that it keeps you constantly in crisis, that you're constantly worried about what you're going to eat, how you're going to keep the heat on, what you're going to, wear. So when you're in the welfare system, and the example that you just gave is very real, is that, you can make a couple of dollars more that may like boot you out of the welfare system. And honestly, I don't know how they do their numbers, but logistically, it may not be enough for a person to feel comfortable to sustain on their own. So they may cut back on the income that they can get just to be able to maintain their basic needs. And that, it puts someone constantly in survival mode. And so it really is, it's not just oh, you need to get a job, or oh, you need to make more money. Like, this person is constantly in crisis and in survival of, how am I going to get my basic needs met? It's hard for them to see above anything else. So shifting out of poverty, it's not as simple as people may think, as getting a job, because like I said, that person can make a couple more extra dollars that disqualifies them, but mathematically, it's not really stable enough for their financial situation. So you have that fear that come in, and you resort back to, the trigger, if you will, is resort back to how I can survive and how I can make sure that these basic needs are not being disrupted. You can't really focus on anything else. So you're going to go back to what you know and what's always been consistent, which is the safety net of the welfare system. And I have my own little personal conspiracy theories about the welfare system that we're not going to get into tonight.
Hmm.
But it's really, I really want people to know that transition out of poverty is not, it's not easy. I feel fortunate enough that, one, I had my, like, even with a master's degree, I was on welfare assistance because I wasn't able to find work, unfortunately, in my hometown that, was able for me to sustain myself. So I literally had to just remove myself, take a big leap, betting on myself in just different areas where, the income for my profession was more, but not everybody can, that's not everybody's situation. And so I really think it would be more realistic where it's not such a drastic cutoff, but there's more like of a transition where a person is gradually being weaned off of something like that. But because it's so cut and dry, it's like, you're in or you're out. If you qualify, it's really hard for people to shift out of that. And so they revert back to that survival mode. Like, how can I get my basic needs met? So when you're in fear of losing that, being able to eat, being able to have somewhere to stay, you're going to do whatever you need to do to keep that sustainable.
Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that. And some of you may be on, or you may be watching this replay, and you have no context for this, so you don't even understand this. And so your knee-jerk response is, well, you just got to figure it out. Well, part of our faith and what Jesus models is that of empathy. So whenever we talk about the doctrine of the incarnation, the fact that God was made flesh, Jesus put himself in our shoes. Jesus didn't have to try to relate to us. He didn't have to try to understand us, but he does that. And if our Savior can do that, it only makes sense that we should do our best to understand people that may be in a different situation, setup, and circumstance than we are. And so I would push you in the area of empathy to understand what our sister Tashana is sharing. Not just somebody on the outside looking in. She's also a professional that has worked with her families and seen this from the professional side, but she's also been transparent about the fact that she's been on the other side. I don't know if you heard what she said. She said, I had a master's degree and I was still navigating this whole thing. So I did what they told me to do. I went to school and I went and got my bachelor's, went and got my master's, and I'm still trying to figure this thing out. And so, please have a sense of empathy and really understand really the nature of what we're talking about. And that's why faith is so important. The faith has to be integrated, because for you to break through from poverty, it's going to require all hands on deck. It's going to require you to have a spiritual resilience, emotional resilience, mental resilience. You need all of that in order to break free. But let me transition to Shauna, because we got to get to the nitty gritty. I want to share a couple quotes, and then we are going to get to our first part of, or I should say the first point of the conversation. Old Donald Olson, he jokes, but he says the average American is busy buying things he doesn't want with money he doesn't have to impress people he doesn't like, right? So I want you to really think about why you buy what you buy. Another quote I want to share with you, I saw this on Facebook as a meme. I wanted to get it on screen. I didn't have time. But he says, a fact about money: if you can't manage 1,000, then you can't manage 10,000. You don't suddenly learn how to handle money by amassing more of it. This is why a lot of lottery winners lose it all. Financial literacy, here it is, church, is not a side effect of wealth. Wealth is a side effect of financial literacy. And so that's why this conversation is so important, because some people, Tashana, think that the answer is more, but really we got to start with where we are.
Yes, that's so true. So glad that was
take us home, Tashana, because you got point one. I'm gonna let you run with it.
Yes. So the first thing is budgeting. And this is something, if you follow me on any of my platforms, I have said this just over and over and over again. For me, this was a big eye opener. Like I said, when I transitioned out of that place of not having enough to having enough to meet my basic needs, I still found myself struggling. And what I realized is that I never really learned how to truly steward my money and maximize what I have. So for many of you, and myself included at a point in time, we simply think that, if I had more money, but if you suffer from what I like to call "where did my money go" syndrome, then you really need to sit down and make sure that you have a budget. Because if you do not know where your money is going, that is a clear sign that you're not maximizing what you have. And so one of the things that I hear often sometimes in money conversations is that I feel like I have more bills than money. And one of the things that's very powerful about a budget, that is, even if that is your situation, what makes a budget so powerful is that you're able to see, okay, this is the income that I'm bringing in. These are my expenses. After everything is covered for, this is what I have left over. But if you're in a situation where you feel like you have more bills than money, it will also tell you this is how much you're in the red. So even if you feel like, I'm not bringing enough to meet my needs, specifically what that number is. Is it $50? Is it $100? What is it? And knowing that number puts the power back into you versus just feeling like, I don't know where my money is going. I don't know what's going on. I just know I need more. So actually sitting down and doing the very basic before you can get into saving, before you get into investing, budgeting is first. Like, know how else to say that or to put it through the screen, like how powerful a budget is. There is no and I heard this listening to His or Her Money, another like personal finance, gurus I like to listen to. They had a guest on there, Lynn Richardson, and she talked about how there's no like multi-million or billion-dollar business that does not operate on a budget. If they realize that the paper clips is, being overspent, they're going to drop down on, spending on the paper clips. And if multi-million, billion-dollar companies are operating on the budgets, we should be, doing that for our personal lives. We should not be making any type of moves without knowing that we're maximizing what we currently have. So sometimes we believe, oh, I need more money. But again, if you do not know your numbers, even if, again, if your situation is, I have more bills than money, if you cannot tell me, okay, what does that specifically mean for your financial situation number wise, then that is red flag number one, that your foundation isn't right, and you need to start with that budget, because a budget will also tell you if you do have money left over. Hey, I can I actually have something to put towards a saving, or I actually have something to throw at my debt, or begin to invest. The budget will tell you how to navigate what you can actually do with your money, and when you begin to make more money, how to really spread it and make it work. So you can't do anything without a budget. And I don't care if you want to call it a broker balance sheet, whatever makes you feel happy, a spending plan, whatever it is, it's a budget. Your income and your expenses, you have to start there.
Amen. That's so good. I got about 20 of you still on. Make sure that you share this and let some folk know that we're having this conversation. Tashana is really blessing us. This is amazing. Tashana, I want you to help me out, because I want folk to make sure that they have a takeaway from this. First, they can go to your website, which is below, and you have some resources on the website, right?
Yes. So
Okay.
I do have a free budget template that you can download to kind of get started if you don't know, like, okay, what does this actually mean? And it's a digital budget template, so you can do it directly from your computer, or you can print it out. There also is video instructions. So you'll see in the email, you'll be able to click and play the video, and I'll kind of walk you through how to fill it out. And that's absolutely free.
Great. What are the numbers that you think that we need to know? Give me a sense, and I know we can't cover everything, but what are the numbers from a budget perspective that you would say we need to know?
Yes. You need to know what income you're bringing in. You need to know what money is coming in. So whether that be from a job, maybe you do some side hustles from this on the side, where you have like this kind of money that's not really consistent. But even if you're working a part-time or full-time job, you need to know your income. What am I bringing into my household on a monthly basis? Then the other number you need to know is your expenses. What am I responsible for? Who have they hand out every month? Whether it be your rent, your light bill, your phone bill, gas, insurance, whatever it is, you need to know all of those expenses. Now, I also like to track like what I like to call non-reoccurring bills. So these are bills that may not come out every month, but I'm still responsible for. So let's say, I got a parking ticket, or I have a medical expense. They're not something that's going to be routinely, but they have a due date on them that I need to be aware of, and make sure that I'm monitoring and tracking that as well. And in the free budget template, I have a section for what I call non-reoccurring bills, because those are the things that kind of creep up on. It's like, oh my goodness, I completely forgot about that. And next thing you know, it's in collections. And so you want to be able to know, again, your income, so what you're bringing in, your expenses that you're responsible for every month, and then some of those, unexpected things that may not be, reoccurring, like your regular expenses.
That's so good. So you all, I really want you to know your number. So make sure that you go to Tashana's website. It's right there, hopefulreality.com, and download that template. I gave you 3 A's on yesterday. I actually did some more writing for my book today, and I actually did a chapter just really covering these 3 A's: assessment, alignment, and attitude. That's what one golfer does every time they go to play the game of golf. But if you don't take the necessary time for assessment, to consider all of the factors, you are definitely doing yourself a disservice. Now, Tashana, I want to talk about real quick some budget killers, because I know that one of mine is Chipotle, right? I got another budget killer, not just Chipotle, but when I go and I realize how many subscriptions I've signed up for. So $5 here, $10 there, $20 there. So talk to me about some of those killers that we don't realize are adding up over time.
Yes. So thank you for bringing that. I completely forgot about the audit. So one of the things I encourage people to do, just to really get a full visual of their financial picture, is to audit their spending from the last month. So this will help you find those gaps. And I personally did this. So basically, you want to separate these into two categories. So the categories of needs and the categories of wants. And I always say, I'm not going to insult anybody intelligence. We know what a need is and we know what a want is. So the more honest and transparent you are with yourself, the better you are to get a full visual of what your financial situation is. So once you put these, your spending in these two categories, you may find like, oh my goodness, I'm spending, X amount of dollars on eating out. For me, when I did this, I was spending over $400 in a month just eating out. Now, I'm not going to a fancy restaurant and getting me a big meal. These are, small transactions of me going, instead of packing my lunch, I'm buying lunch every other day. I'm getting that coffee every other day, or I don't feel like cooking and I'm, grabbing something quick from, Wendy's or something for the kids. It's those small transactions, because they're just a little bit at a time. They don't really seem like they're making a big hit, but they add up, and we do it frequently. So to me, I was just like, what the heck? How did $400 just sneak away from me like that? Again, those subscriptions, you may be subscribed to something that you're not even using anymore, and you realize that it's still coming out of your account. So you definitely want to audit your spending. I say go back just the last 30 days, but some people, if they, go really deep, they go back like either the last 60 or 90 days. But the last 30 days is usually like a good place to start, just so you can see, okay, I realize I haven't been budgeting. What have I been doing with my money? And that, your bank statement will be very honest, because numbers don't lie. It's there. I mean, we'll tell you, and it will reflect back to you what you've been doing. So those doing that audit, again, putting it in that categories of needs and wants, really helps you get a true picture of where you're starting without the budget.
That's so good. Yeah, I love that statement. Numbers don't lie. We will rationalize, and that's why we need the numbers, right? Because we will tell ourselves so many things. I deserve it, or I haven't done this in so long. I need to treat myself. All that type of stuff that we will say just to rationalize. Debbie Barney, I see it. Debbie says the dollar store will hurt your purse. I know that's right.
Yeah. Those
Yes.
dollars add up.
Yep,
Okay,
yep,
remember,
yep.
four things leave out with 50. Like, it's just $1.
That's exactly. And you know what? People don't realize that for instance, McDonald's, for instance. Let's just talk for a second about sales and some of the psychology around sales. So they will get you to come in off the dollar menu. But there's something called the upsell, because they have this idea that if you come in and you get something off the dollar menu, you can't have a double cheeseburger and you have no fries. And what I'm gonna do? I need to get me something to drink too. I need something to drink, right? So you come there with one idea. I'm gonna get this, and before you realize it, you have been upsold to where you initially were going to spend the $13 or whatever that is, and you don't walk out of there spending 5, 6, 7, even $10. And so we don't realize, as Tashana is saying, how that adds up over time, especially when we aren't scrutinizing our budgets and really paying attention.
Yes. And one of the things I want to kind of emphasize is that we can treat ourselves, but you want to make sure that it is within your budget and in moderation. And so one of the things that I, practice is that there's certain categories. I do the cash envelope system, and I got this from Dave Ramsey.
Hmm.
He has a lot of really, really great financial principles that I definitely do follow. But one of them that has really helped me with this is the cash envelope system. So if you enjoy eating out, and again, after you do your expenses and your income and you looked at what's left over, you can categorize, okay, in moderation, I feel comfortable spending about $20 or $30 just on, grabbing something quick to eat. The thing about the cash envelope is that it's physical cash, because we're more aware when we see something going away. And what makes this powerful is that once that envelope is empty, that's it. You're not swiping your card, you're not going back. This is what you dedicated for this certain thing. So your cash envelope, naming may be different from mine. I may have one for, for fun stuff or for eating out. You maybe really don't care to eat out, but the things that, are not really a responsible expense, but we like to treat ourselves, you still want to budget for those things as well, and make sure they're in moderation and control, and you're not just swiping blindly, but it's within your budget.
That is so good, and I really love how you pointed that out, because you don't think about it when you're swiping it off the card, but when that cash is in your hand and you had 20, now you got 15, you got 11, you like and you see that cutting into that last 10. It really hits a little different than when you just swiping the card, and or even on Amazon when you just click that buy it now, you got your card saved and you're not even thinking.
Right. And it really is like, our brains they're very interesting. But the more motor and skills that we have involved in a situation, the more attentive we are to it. And I really found that to be true with the cash envelope system, because then I would begin to negotiate like, ooh, I wanted this, but maybe I should get this instead because it's a little bit, cheaper or on sale, or it makes a little bit more sense. I'm more attentive to my spending habits. So you're not just, blindly just buying everything and swiping like, oh, is it on there, like it. And also eliminates that feeling like, oh, I hope it go through. It's going to go through because your numbers, you've been doing your budget, and you know what's on your card. And doing that, honestly has allowed me to put my certain bills on auto pay. Before, I'm like, y'all get it when I got it, but now I know, because I know my numbers, I know what's coming in, what's going out when they are due. I can confidently say, okay, I can put that bill on auto pay because I've managed my money and organized it in a way where I don't have to worry about an overdraft fee or not having it in there, because I've, maximized what I have. So I'm telling y'all, like, a budget, we can stop there. Like, if you just master that, it will really change a lot. But I just really feel like you have to really get that down to really, really, even advance to the next things.
Yeah. That is so good. And really, I really hope you all are paying attention to this. Also, go to the website. You see it on the screen, hopefulreality.com. I encourage you to go download what Tashana has to offer. She has a video that's going to walk you through the process, and then you'll also get that free sheet. Also, if you are being blessed tonight, I encourage you. I'm leaving her Cash App up there on the screen. I encourage you to be a blessing, because we certainly thank God for her coming and sharing with us on tonight. So let's move to number 2. So it is important that when we talk about money, if we are going to be smart with the money that we have, and some of you probably have another stimulus check coming, you probably tax return is coming, so for some, you're going to have some extra money coming real soon. Don't get it in March and blow it by April. So we want to be mindful of our budget and what we have. But what is step 2?
Step 2 is saving, building that emergency fund. There is a study out, well, there is a stat out there that say about 48% of Americans do not have at least $500 saved to address an emergency. And that is very detrimental, because what tends to happen is, people may have something that come up and they swipe a credit card, or, maybe they're borrowing from someone. But saving is something that is definitely a priority after you master your budget, because your budget will tell you how much is left over that you're able to save. And one thing I really like to emphasize is that, with savings, it may start off small, contributions at a time, but it's that repetitive habit that builds the savings. So for me, when I first started out, after I, did all of my income and expenses, organized my cash envelopes, I realized I only had $10 left over that I can contribute to my savings every 2 weeks. And so that's what I did. I started off literally with $10, and that was on automation. Putting your savings on automation is also key because it takes away the extra thought or effort. Like, we are naturally lazy creatures, and the internet is not helping us. It's making us more lazy. So
Mm-hmm.
the more we can put things in systems that work for us, if after I do everything, you may only have $5 left over. That $5 or $10, adds up over time and it's coming out automatically. And you can increase that amount once you bring more income in, or maybe an expense that you once had is no longer there, which happened to me. There was a medical bill that I had to bring down that I was paying on like every month, that eventually was paid off. And I'm like, you know what, I got used to paying that medical bill. I can transfer that $50 over to my savings and just throw it into there. Again, a budget will help you look at and begin to see that to build your savings. Before COVID, there's the word in the street, and this is something that was definitely heavily preached by Dave Ramsey, was to have at least $1,000 in your emergency savings. I do think that's a good place to start, but COVID has taught us a very hard reality of how things can easily shift. So if you are in a financial position to save a little bit more, I think a very safeguard to have is at least the 3 to 6 months of your expenses to really build. That should be like the big goal. But to get you started, could be that $500, to kind of get over the statistics of the average American, and then go to that $1,000, and then know, okay, this is what my monthly expenses are, times that by 3 or 6 to know, okay, this is my savings goal. I eventually need to get this account too. And having that emergency savings in place is just very vital for, when life happens, because many of us have been here. Life will happen, whether it be today, tomorrow, a month from now, or even a year. It's a much rewarding feeling to know that you have something put aside for those unexpected things that tend to come up. And one of the things I do want to emphasize about a savings that's different from an investing, which we'll get into, is that usually savings account has a very small interest rate on it, where the interest is going for you, with the money that you have in there. Like, banks really don't have like high interest rates on savings. It's like a tenth of a penny. But I have found that online banking tend to have a little bit more higher interest rate than your average bank account. One of the banks that I use is Ally.com. So just if you want to get a little bit more bang for your buck, I do think it's a little bit more beneficial to have it in an online savings account that's separate from your traditional banking account. I know for me personally, out of sight, out of mind works better, because you see that money growing. You're like, oh, I can borrow $10 from myself, $50 from
Mm-hmm.
myself, and it defeats the purpose. So out of sight, out of mind, and automation, I feel like are very key principles. Again, depending on your financial discipline, you may not need to do that. But for me, I know if I see it, I'm gonna dip in it when I'm just like, oh, we will naturally just go to what's easiest versus really trying to figure out what we can do what we have when we're not able to see that. So, again, starting off on what that savings goal may look like for you. Again, maybe $500 may be a stretch. So that's a good starting place, regardless of that 3 to 6 month. $500 may be a big thing for you, and it was for me in the beginning. So that is a great place to start. Having it on automation after you know your numbers confidently, whether it be $5, $10, or even $100, depending on what your numbers tell you. And then, to kind of get a little bit more bang for your buck, you may want to put it into an online savings account to get a little bit more interest than the average banking.
Yeah, that is so good. The writer of a proverb says, "Precious treasure and oil are in the dwelling place of a wise person, but a fool consumes them." So we ought to have something saved up. We ought to have something put up. Don't miss the language that Tashana is using on tonight. An emergency fund. You need to have something set aside. And she gave you some numbers. $500, $1,000 if you're able to do it. Ultimately, 3 to 6 months saved up. These are things that you can start thinking about and you can start preparing for, so that when some of you are going to get a windfall, some of you even get $10,000. When after it's all said and done, between tax return and don't think about how you can spend the money, but the question becomes, how can you begin, number one, to budget, but two, to save, to have something set up? I can testify. I thank God we had to take Siobhan's truck on last week to get inspected. The first bill that came was $2,000. Then it came back that warranty covered so much of it, so that that 2,000 turned to 900. And then I said, Lord, I ain't trying to spend this 900. But then there was some sort of insurance piece baked into the lease, so that 900 turned into 300, and 300 to Shauna sounded about right. After we started at 2,000.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like, I'll
but
take 300, Alex.
yeah. but I just say that to say that things come up, cars break down, bills become due. There's just so much that happens. I think we lost Tashana, but she will call back in when she can. But you all, please understand the value of this conversation and why it is so important. All right, Tashana, you back?
Yes, I'm
We got
sorry.
you.
I was
No.
trying to mute myself, and
Oh,
I
no, no,
accidentally
you're
forgot.
fine.
My apologies.
You are fine. You're fine. So let's move on, because we are on a roll. I definitely want to get to these last two. I know we might not spend a whole lot of time on the third one, but I definitely want to get to that fourth one too. So three. What was third
Three,
again?
so investing. So after you done master your budget, you done built up your savings. One thing that is very important to know is that you cannot build wealth with just savings. Your savings main purpose is for those emergencies and those unexpected things that may happen. But to really have your money to begin to work for you, you want to invest. And what makes investing so powerful is that one way that I can think about is I think about my debt. My debt has interest, and that interest is growing against me. It's getting bigger and bigger. The longer I have it, the longer it's there. Versus with investing, that interest is working for me, and the money is begin to work for itself. So there's different avenues and different things that you can do to and begin to invest your money and put it into different type of brokerage account, which we're not going to get too much into because I am not certified to give that type of advice. But I do have blog articles, and there's a lot of information online on just some very basic things that you can do in investing, starting off, whether you have a retirement with your job and they may offer a match, that's free money that if you're not taking advantage of, you're basically just throwing free money away. So I think some of the very, fundamentals, if you do have a job, make sure you're, taking advantage of that match if they have one, maxing out for the year. And if you are, working, or you don't really have a retirement, there are different type of brokerage accounts that you can open up on your own to begin to save for your later self or your later life. So investing is something that is more for the long term. I know there was like this big old thing with GameStop that has recently happened about the market being shortened or whatever, and it definitely is intriguing, but that is not really like long-term investing, and people have benefited and was really in position and was able to take advantage of that. But that's not something that happens every day. There are some very basic fundamental principles that come to investing that we all can start for ourselves and also for our children, like custodial accounts and 529 for colleges. Just having that information to begin to make those contributions over time is what makes investing powerful. So you do eventually want to get to that mark with your money where you've gone beyond the budget, you've gone beyond the savings, and now you're positioning your family for long term, prosperity and beginning to invest in those foundational things.
Yeah, that's so powerful, because so many people they wait till they get older before they start thinking about investments. But one of the thing about investing is that the sooner that you can begin, the better off that you'll be, because you won't always be the age that you are right now. And so you want to get this in mind now, that you need to be thinking about the future you, but you also need to be thinking about your children. So can you start putting something aside for their college now, if they are children? Can you start teaching them principles around budgeting instead of them watching YouTube videos with kids playing with toys? Can you empower them with something that will teach them how money can work for them? Because one of the things I love about what John Maxwell says about money, he has a book called Today Matters. And in the book, he talks about his daily dozen, 12 things he does daily. And one of the things that he does daily is he looks at and addresses his finances. And he says, I pay attention to my finances today. And this goes back to what Tashana said earlier. He says, I pay attention to my finances today because my finances give me options. You want to have options. That's why you want to take an audit. You want to know what you're bringing in. You want to know what your numbers are. You want to save. You want to have some, some emergency funds in tap and together. But you also want to invest, because when we talk about investment, the math changes. So we're not just talking about, money by addition. When you learn how to invest and you do your homework, now we're talking about concepts like compounding your interest. So we're having different conversations now. But one of the things that Tashana was saying, I think that was so important. The idea of consistency, really building small, not thinking I can't have 100,000 a day, right? But if I start doing the little small things now, I can build up to whatever that number is for me.
Yes, yes, and that's so powerful, and especially if you have children, the powerful thing about investing is it's time and compound interest, and kids got a lot of time. So the sooner
Mm-hmm.
you start with them and setting up, they can be set by the time they're 18 with the different investment accounts that are out there. And so I think sometimes we want to do it backwards, like, oh, I'm going to invest and get this big hit to address my financial needs, which may not be, I mean, that it does happen, but that's like the exception to the rule. But basically really going in this order, starting with your budget, mastering what you can do with your finances now, building up on your savings, and then going into that investment really helps set a strong foundation that can really secure your financial stability, and also reach into a place of independence.
Amen. Thank you so much. Let me see. I know we had Tiffany Jackson said, "Hey, family." Tiff, I don't know if you're still on. Good to see you. Debbie says it would be nice if you can take this this info into the classroom. Tashana, Debbie, I got good news. Me and Tashana had a conversation on
Yeah.
today. We working on something for the kids, and I am just excited about what God is doing in her, and we want to make sure that we empower some of our young folk. We want to have some stuff available, Debbie, for Jersey, and and for Juju, and for
Yes.
my nephew Jordan and Darian, all of those guys. So I'll just say that Sean and I have had a conversation, and we working on some stuff that may be coming real soon. So see Tashana, they already calling for you.
We all in alignment. We family.
That's some good stuff. All right, so we have gone on a journey today, but there's one more thing, Tashana, that you are going to give to us and share with us. What is that number for?
Yes. So starting a home-based business. My hopeful reality is a home-based business because I operate out of my home. I use my internet and my computer. But the benefits of a home-based business that you can get than a traditional business is, you have your tax write-off. You can also hire your children, and it's another source of income. And there's a lot of things that that the pandemic has really shifted to make it so much easier to start a home-based business. So whether you are interested in doing t-shirts and mugs, like the t-shirts and stuff that I sell, I don't physically have to make those. There are different companies out there that will print them for you and ship it out, and of course they'll take a cut of the sale. But again, that's another stream of income that I am building that really doesn't take much work, other than like a creative thought of, okay, what's a fancy thing or something nice that I can put on a shirt. Earlier I was talking to Pastor about affiliates. There are a lot of companies that are shifting to influencers, if you will, because the commercial space is dying, because a lot of us are just streaming, so there's not a lot of commercials that we're watching. So these companies want to be able able to get their products in front of people. So they're looking for average everyday people, and it's something that you do all the time. Hey, where did you get that, facial steamer from? Amazon. Amazon has a whole affiliate program that anytime you offer something, you get a commission off of it. And so, you want to establish yourself as a business, get a website and, get registered and stuff like that. So you can be able to partake in these different avenues that are out there. But definitely, creating multiple streams of income is just, it's a non-negotiable at this point. Having a job is great, but I do feel like every household should have some type of home-based business where they're creating another stream of revenue. And with a home-based business, like I said, you can include your children in that, and they, can work for the business and be paid. And so that is something that I feel a lot of people should definitely consider and look into. There's just, and it doesn't have to be a passion or, something that you're really driven to build a business. There's just so many different ways that you can make money that if you have an interest to, and you can figure out how to work it, then go for it. And there definitely is a difference between like a side hustle and a business. Like for me, I do Amazon deliveries where I go, pick a block and actually just go and deliver Amazon for package. And depending on the block, I can make like $80 to $100 for that, 2 to 4 hours. That's just something that is quick. Like right after I do the task, I get the money. Sometimes, to take in consideration as you're building a business, it may take some time for you to, get established, get your your name out there to marketing and stuff like that. But again, I think that it's a good kind of gem to have within your household, to have something as another way of income, because just having a job alone, I think it's very evident that it's not safe, and it's not smart, it's really not smart, and it really puts you at risk for a lot of things. So I am pushing home-based business to everyone. Just think of something, Google. There's just so much, because we are such in a digital space, that there's just so many different businesses that you can do. Maybe you have a knowledge about something that you're really good at, that people come to you about. You can create an ebook or even a course. Like online courses is another big market that people they're expecting like a huge revenue from. So maybe you can package something in the course that you're really good at and begin to sell it. There's just so many different things that you can do, but having a home-based business / side hustle is a non-negotiable. You heard it from me. I'm not being mean about it, but I really want you all to really think about what are different ways or other ways that I can, begin to bring money. And having an established business within, being registered is the best way to go, because there are some tax benefits in doing that, especially in your home.
That is so good, and I really want you all to hear what was just shared with you. The idea of having another stream of income, and and Tashana dropped a lot of jewels on you. One was being an Amazon affiliate, where you signed up for the affiliate program. People ask you, "Hey, Debbie, where did you get that air fryer you got?" I got it off of, and instead of just telling them exactly where you got it, you just send them your affiliate link. They don't pay any more, but you get a cut off of that sale, right? That is major. Tashana dropped Amazon. So folk in Erie, Amazon is coming to Erie. So the question is Amazon going to be hiring drivers, kind of like what Uber does? It's something that you want to pay attention to. Did you hear Tashana talking about $80 to $100, couple hours of doing a drop off? For everybody, you're not saying I need an additional $1,000 a month. There's some people I know on this call right now, an additional $200 to $300 a month would be a help to you. And so when we talk about having an additional stream of income, it's important. I remember that this last year, the wave was everybody was going out to buy a Cricut, and you can definitely make money with a Cricut. You can make some stuff, but you got to learn some skills. Everybody was just trying to do the same thing. That was the problem. But with a Cricut, you can make your own greeting cards. Valentine's Day is coming up. You got Easter after that. Christmas and Thanksgiving. What if you had your own line of greeting cards that you printed out, you made yourself, and it was seasonal and it brought in some additional money, something that you just connected with somebody on. What if you had, instead of buying a new truck for you to drive around and floss in the city, what if you bought a truck and put a shovel on the front of that thing, and in the wintertime you knocked out people's driveways, and you could collaborated with churches, and you did parking lots. There are so many things that you can do if you just get creative and think through it. But I don't want you to miss what Tashana said. Having one stream of income is dangerous, because you're putting all your eggs in the same basket. Tashana, you have any more ideas around home-based business stuff that people can kind of think through? Because everybody always says, I can't do nothing, I ain't got no skills, da 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 da. Can you got any more ideas you can throw at folks?
Um, oh man. Content is king.
Content,
So
yeah.
if you enjoy talking, maybe you don't want to show your face on camera. Podcasting is something that I would highly suggest is very low entry level. Or if you do like getting on camera and taking pictures, YouTube is another good one. There is a huge shift in what people are calling like the influence market. So one, you can be an affiliate where you can like recommend, products to people if they're asking or whatever. But different companies also they're starting to budget for sponsors. So let's say, you enjoy makeup or you enjoy clothes, and there's a specific company that you pitch to and say, hey, I'll, do X amount of, content, take a couple of pictures on Instagram, showcasing my outfit, some stuff that you may already do. Companies are starting to have budgets put aside to begin to sponsor and pay you a lump sum for, showing their product to your audience. And it doesn't have to be, guaranteed sales. It's just a simple fact that I'm sharing your brand with my audience and telling them about your product. And what I like to tell people to do, or what I, am starting to do myself, is look at everything that I'm using in my home that I actually love and enjoy. And I'm going on websites and looking if they have, a contact where I can begin to pitch myself or my business. So there's just a lot of multiple ways that you can do it. I feel like the digital space is such a huge one. And the reason why I'm kind of pushing home-based business in a digital space, because traditional business, it's having a struggle right now because everybody
Mhm.
is home.
Right.
There's a lot of people whose businesses have thrived very well because they were already positioning in that digital space. There's a lot of information that we're all looking to learn. Even if, like I said, I feel like creating like some type of ebook or something of a knowledge or a skill that you have is so easy to do. That
Mhm.
can really be marketable, and it's another big one. But I should have wrote like a list of things, but those are some of the things that come to mind
No, no,
because I'm kind of in
good.
those spaces and learning so much, and people are really, making, they making bank out here, y'all. So, and there's
Yeah.
plenty of space for people to get in. And a lot of people like, so, oh, everybody's doing that. If everybody's doing it, then there's a sign that there is a demand. So don't ever let that deteriorate you because you see everybody starting a podcast or starting a YouTube channel. To me, it's just like, oh, wait, there's a demand, there's a growing trend. And, I'm pretty sure you heard the saying, like the bread companies, like, oh, there's enough breads out there. No, here's our name. Here's some more bread for you to choose from. So,
Right.
don't ever let that deteriorate you. Like, oh, everybody's doing it, so it's oversaturated, because it to me, that's just a sign that there's a demand. So there's multiple things that you can do, but I think highly, really focusing in that digital space because it's a low cost entry. Starting a blog is another one, a great way. I will say though, with blogging, you do need to have another form of compact content because everybody is just not reading. We're more visual. We want to hear things. So having like your blog with a video connected is, I'm seeing, is the trend that's kind of working now. But yeah, for me, it's a big push in like what's in the digital space that you can kind of get a low cost entry started and getting your business up and running and kind of grow it over time to get a big return.
Yeah, that is so good. And I think what you just shared, as well, goes back to point three. So when we talk about investment, it's not always, stock market. It's not always 401k. Sometimes investment is the learning of a new skill. So you're investing in yourself, and that could be something else that you say. Whenever I get, some extra money, I'm going to learn a new skill. I'm gonna go ahead and put them on blast. I'm so proud of my brother Corey. Corey is killing it, but he developed a skill, and then he made investments in that skill. And now Corey is in high demand. And part of the reason why Corey is in demand right now is because of his consistency. He went out there, he learned photography, he learned video, and now people are coming to him. But he didn't always know how to do. He didn't always know what he was doing. But he was one that said, "I'm going to develop the skill. I'm going to invest in myself." And that's something him and I always talk about. We always talk about investing in ourselves, investing in each other, because there's going to be a return on that. So it's not always money for money. Sometimes it's money for a skill, but then that skill is going to turn around and that's going to produce for you. So just be thinking about even skill development during this time, and stop saying, "I'm not a tech person. I'm not a tech person." Push yourself to become what you're not, especially if that's going to help you to get to where you aren't currently. But really, really take assessment and really think about some of just some skills that you can go out there and really develop, because that's something Corey and I, we talk about all the time, and we tell young people every time we get a chance. I want you to go to school, but if you are going to fight going to school, at least develop a skill. Develop a skill, because that skill is going to be something that is going to support you for months and years to come. So, Tashana, you have blessed us on tonight. I am so grateful for you. I want you all to know Tashana's Cash App is on screen. If you don't have Cash App and you want to be a blessing to Tashana, let us know. We will get that right out to her, and I'll tell you how to get whatever you want to get to her. But all of her website information is there. So if maybe you can't do the Cash App right now, but you go on the site and you can buy a mug. She got stuff on the website that you can support her. And so, Tashana, I'm going to let you talk about what you have to offer. Tell us about the podcast, the blog, Instagram, everything you got going on.
Thank you. I'm out here doing the most, y'all.
Yeah.
So yes, I do have a blog, which is all of my written content. So you can find a lot of educational information on different financial concepts that I'm learning along the way. And so there's a lot of basic fundamental principles on there that you can reference from. I do have an article about how to invest one-on-one, just some very easy beginner steps that I am learning. And so usually the blog will have a lot of written content that you can kind of sit and dissect and go over at your own leisure. I do also have a podcast, and so I do share financial concepts and things on there as well. Also, I'm different productivity and organizational skills, which is a huge one when building a business, because sometimes it's not necessarily the business itself that isn't working, but it's the person working the business that really needs to develop over time. And so
That's good.
I do a balance between that of talking about finances and productivity tips. I share a little bit about my life on there, so sometimes the conversation is a little fun or heavy depending on what's going on in my life. So it's very conversational. And YouTube is just another kind of reflection of some of my blog content in video form. So for those who like to, watch video and listen that way, I just kind of convert some of my blogs and kind of bring out those key points and put them into video. On my store, I have merch. So I have mugs and t-shirts. I also do have a budgeting basic workbook that goes a little bit beyond the budget. So you actually have a 12-month budget sheet in there. There's some financial key terms that are in there. The audit sheet is in there. Trying to think what else is in there. I think that's about it. But there's a lot of just kind of all of that. All of what I talked about is all packaged into the budgeting basic workbook. But with the free template, it's just the budget template by itself. But with the workbook, you kind of get an array of a lot of things to kind of expand. And they're all pretty affordable, nothing crazy. And then I'm also on Instagram, just kind of, again, that's just another platform where I'm sharing content in picture and like mini video form.
That is so great. I thank you so much for your time on tonight. We've already talked. You'll be back again, at some point. So we're excited about having you. I want to thank all of you who joined us, whether you're here live or you're going to join us on the replay. We are so grateful. If you have any questions and anything you want us to cover in the next conversation, please don't hesitate to shoot those out to us. But Tashana, I want to thank you again just for sharing on tonight.
Thank you for having me. Super excited to just be able to spread the message more, because this has truly changed my life. And I'm just like, I wish somebody would sat down and talk to me. But just like, now that I have the information, anybody that's willing to listen, I'm going to tell you over and over again.
No doubt about it. And to the question earlier about some more to come. Yes. Not just for adults. Tashana and I have talked about some stuff for financial literacy for our young people, children and teens. So I'll be excited to share some of that with you once we get that worked out. Wow, Tashana, you got it going on. God bless you. That's from Debbie Barney.
Thank you.
And Tabby says, thank you, Tashana. Amen. And thank you, Tammy. Thank you all for joining us. We see I about 15 or so of you all still on. Thank you. Some of y'all been popping in and out. I know some of y'all watch us at work, so thank you for for hanging out with us. Leslie, good to see you tonight. Thank you for joining us. She says, thank you, Tashana.
Problem.
Amen. And Vet, good to see you, Vet. Blessings. All right, family, we're out of here. Thank you so much for tuning in. I got to close out on the sounds of my boy Jonathan Baker. This is Live to Love. Remember, as I'm closing out, Tashana's Cash App info is on the screen. If you want to be a blessing, please, ma'am, please, sir, be a blessing to her. Also, you can check out the website hopefulreality.com, and you can check out some of the stuff she has there. Bernadette says, blessings to you, baby. Amen. to Miss Hilda, what's up, Hilda? I didn't know you was on. Hilda says, good job, Tashana. Hey, Rashonda, she says, I'm late, but I will be watching afterwards. Thank you, Rashonda, and much love to all of the replay crew. Y'all take care. Blessings and favor in your life is always my prayer for you.